magic to work, you have to truly believe in the magic.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Magic, an Orlando Magic podcast. On today's episode, we're going to delve into a recent trade that's gone down in the NBA, and we're going to also talk about some trade targets involving the Magic. Today's episode is brought to you in association with Attraction Tickets, the UK's #1 attraction ticket and theme park hotel provider for all of Orlando's attractions. That includes Orlando Magic tickets at hugely competitive prices. You can visit us at letstalkmagic.com for all our affiliate links and discount codes, including the NBA store and Fanatics. Right, so I'm glad I got that one done. If you're watching on YouTube...
After take 17, well done, G.
Well, 4 takes, wasn't it? 4 takes. So, yeah. We've got you two smiling anyway, so you had a bit of a laugh at me. So, right, Gary, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine after the Ron Burgundy. If it's on the teleprompter, he will read it.
I still want to know. Classy, I still want to know where Olingo is.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe you didn't actually get the place name right, mate. That was quality.
I was just
going
too fast. And it's good to have you back, Paul. How
yeah,
have you been,
it's nice to meet you, mate. All right, mate. Busy, very busy week, but all good. The roof's done. Plasterers in tomorrow, and hopefully everything completed by Monday. So yeah, all good. Fantastic. And good to be back. Sorry I had to dive out last week and leave you to carry the flag alone.
That's all right, mate. That's all right. But yeah, like you said, it's good to have you back, and let's have Mikey back in a couple of weeks' time as well. Get the gang back together again. So let's get into it. We'll talk about the week that was. Couple of things here. Obviously, we played the Heat, the Thunder, the Knicks, and last night we played the Hawks. But just start first with the game against Miami last Friday. I'm sure you guys, everyone's listening, watched it. Bit frustrating for everybody. We had an opportunity there. Obviously, the Heat were missing a couple of players in Butler, Hero. Had an opportunity to win. Paolo put the team on his back, but unfortunately missed a bit of a bunny right at the end. You'd probably make that shot 99 times out of 100, and it was unfortunate we lost the game. So, Paul, tell us what you've seen in terms of growth from Paolo this season.
Mate, first of all, if there's one player who doesn't need to issue apologies to the fans, it's Paolo Banchero. The man has put the team on his shoulder, and that really comes to the first point of what we've seen in growth this season, and that's leadership. Good game, bad game, he's stepping up and shouldering the team. And particularly since Franz has been out, we've seen that even more to be the case, and he seems comfortable with that responsibility. Part of the leadership that he's showing is the awareness of others. I know that you've asked kind of around starting point of Miami game, but last night against Atlanta, he picked out that Caleb was struggling to get going, to get points up on the board. So it was Paolo who called him up to take the free throw for the take foul that Paolo had been the victim of. Yeah, granted, Caleb missed it, but what did Paolo do the immediate play after? He set Caleb up. He actively looked for him, threw him an assist, and got him an open three, which Caleb knocked down. That then comes on to his development as a playmaker and decision maker for the team. You've got to be excited about it. He's clearly a student of the game. He's listening to people. He's listening to those during the game who are talking to him, giving him advice, giving him information. And he's clearly also watching tape of the opposition and people that he wants to play like, and he's learning from the people he's playing against on a weekly basis. His all-round game is just improving so much. Yes, that increased amount of ball handling has led to an increase in turnovers, but that is actually a decreasing number if you look at the last 3 games. He's had a total of 5 turnovers as the primary ball handler in the last 3 games. There's still some efficiency, yeah, but again, the team have ridden him at times. He's taking shots that possibly he wouldn't want to necessarily take. His usage on the team is absolutely through the roof, particularly again since Franz has been out. And yes, there's going to be some less good numbers on the efficiency wise that the naysayers always point to, but he is putting the team on his shoulders during this difficult stretch. He's developed an ability to adapt his play during a game, dependent upon what he's being presented with by the opposition. If they are double or triple teaming him, he's learned to look for the pass, or he's learned to try and draw that foul. If they're giving him an open look, he's perfectly happy to step up and take that three. And he's always had that ability to drive at the paint and in the paint and at the rim. And he's still doing that. He's still able and capable of bullying people down. The increased usage rate I've already mentioned. But he is now genuinely our go-to player. Increased shooting volume this season, increased number of makes, rebounding, assists, steals, blocks, they're all up 2.9 points per game better than last season so far, and that's after a slow start. And probably the thing that people don't necessarily associate with Paolo is defence. For someone who came into the league as, should we say, being labelled as a lesser player on that end of the court, my God, has he turned out and proven them wrong. He's got an incredible focus. The guy's a winner. He's on the cusp of stardom for me. His efforts are producing career highs. He's got his first triple-double, and he's moving up in the All-Star voting. He's our first star we've had since Dwight. God, has he earned the right to be?
Yeah, you make very good points there. And what you're saying there about Paolo, obviously this Franz Wagner sort of injury has given him the opportunity to have more of the ball. Gary and I were talking about it last week about Franz. When Franz first came into the league, obviously half the team was injured most of the time. And Franz was having a lot of the ball handling responsibilities and almost like, do your thing. And he obviously learned a lot from that. So, having Paolo have this opportunity now to shoulder the load, and once both are fit and healthy, it's only going to make the magic better that, we've got two capable players of, carrying a team, on the same team.
He's really taken hold of that point forward role that he's been asked to play, and is developing in it game by game and massively developing.
And this, again, this goes back to last week, doesn't it, Gar? Because we were talking about that point forward role. Do you need a point guard then? So, that point guard position we've had trouble with, we've got Jalen Suggs in at the 2. If you're letting Franz and Paolo play point forward, do you need that traditional point guard? Just wondered what your thoughts were on it, because we talked about it last week. Or do you just need a capable shooter or a, just a 3-point threat there, like a Caleb Houston?
Right, first of all, put Franz back in, and you've already got a capable shooter on most nights. We know that before the injury, he'd had a little bit of a slump. But I think if you've got somebody like Paolo in the team who is becoming ever increasingly comfortable with that leadership role and the playmaker decision-making role, then it does reduce that need for a so-called traditional point guard. I think that it's something that's still worthwhile having, as have that option of a guy in the guard position, not necessarily a pure point guard, who has good handles, who can find you something different when Paolo is the main focus. So whilst I don't think we necessarily need a pure point guard, we do need ball handling ability around him, and particularly
Yeah. Oh, cool. So Gary, we've seen, role players really step up in recent weeks. Obviously with the absence of Wendell, Ji, Gary Harris, Markel, and two of those I just want to focus on: Chuma Okeke and Caleb Houston in particular. What's your thoughts on their play and the long-term futures of those two on the team, given their current contract situations?
I think with Chuma, going into the season, we looked at would he really get any minutes at all? And here we are again with an injury crisis. And Chuma's came in, and it's the next man up mentality. But what I'm really pleased about is when we obviously blew the team up, Chuma got a lot of focus in the offense. And for all intents and purposes, from my view, he looked like a guy who could carve out a Robert Covington style career in the NBA as a legit 3-and-D guy on a team. That's kind of like a baby Kawhi, but the comparison for me would be he could be a Robert Covington type role player if everything goes well. Injuries hit, the team changed, drafts have came in. We've got Paolo and Franz at the same point in time. Jonathan Isaac's coming back, and he's gone right down the pecking order. I don't know whether Chuma will be back with us next season. I have no idea, because I think there's potentially going to be some things shuffled around in Orlando at some point. But I like Chuma. I think he's impossible to dislike. And I think he's been very unlucky with injuries. And I think what he's done is, in this stretch, is if it's with or without us, he's guaranteed that he is an NBA level player. And as a result of this, Chuma, I would be very surprised if Chuma is not on a roster, whether it's with us or somebody else. And I'm just saying that because the way he's played, if we do make a trade, he's actually given himself, with the contract he's got, value as being a throw-in.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, there's somebody who you're going to waive immediately. It's somebody you go, actually, this guy could do something for a team. And I like him. I'd be disappointed to see him go, but I know that it's going to happen where guys who we like are going to start going at some point. But what he's done is he's proven himself that he's still an NBA level player. He's got the desire to play there. I know there've been comments on X about he was more interested in real estate these days. I don't think that's the case. I think he's just healthy enough to play again. And as for Caleb Houston, you're asking me this after the Atlanta game, where I think he had a bit of a howler, if I'm being honest. However, what he has done is he's young, he's big, and we know there's a nice looking shot there. I think he may have taken Gary Harris's role. I think Gary Harris might find that he's very expendable when he gets fit. And I'm not being awful, but he wasn't having a good season. We know that he's had a lot of injury problems. We knew that when we got him. And we know that the Gary Harris who was in Denver after those injuries wasn't necessarily the Gary Harris that he was before, where he was in Defensive Player of the Year reckoning and was seen as an elite 3-and-D backcourt guy. Unfortunately, he's had injuries again, but Caleb, a lot younger, a lot bigger, may have made Gary Harris expendable. And
a lot cheaper as well.
A lot cheaper, but that contract for Gary Harris is quite valuable because, as we've seen, there are teams now starting to make deals where they are blowing up rosters. People are becoming dissatisfied. We might not be the direct people in the trade, but we've got pieces to facilitate trades as well. And we could either benefit directly or we could benefit with draft picks. So I think Gary Harris might lose out to Caleb Houston. I think he's down the pecking order now.
Yeah. Okay, so on Monday, we were delighted, weren't we, to have a tip-off that was at a reasonable hour for us here in the UK. So obviously the Magic played the New York Knicks on MLK Junior Day. We were fortunate enough to get a W. Wasn't the best of games to begin with, but luckily the guys pulled it out in the fourth quarter. Great effort in particular by Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz and Jonathan Isaac. Nice to get the cavalry back, and we were messaging each other throughout the game, weren't we? But that second unit really sort of set the pace, and we would just message each other saying, this is the team that should finish the game. And luckily, Coach Mosley stayed with a few of them. But Paul, who impressed you the most?
In a team win, and I think on the game preview after New York, so that would be the Atlanta one.
Yeah,
I refer to it as being a win built on grit and determination. As a team, our defence was immaculate in that game for long stretches. It's hard sometimes to pick out one individual player in and amongst so many good performances. You've already mentioned how Wendell played really aggressive on the offensive end, 17 points, went way over what we were expecting as far as minutes restrictions go. And he was really solid on defence. Markel Fultz in the last couple of minutes was quite influential with his passing, really did help us along. However, I've got to go, Anta, for if you're asking me who impressed me the most, Cole. Has to be Cole. He was, again, playing through this illness. He's still playing through being banged up on his quad, I think it is. He was just that spark, that catalyst that gave the team something, allowed us to come back in. He was a major factor in us getting back into it. That fourth quarter, he scored 10 points and was involved in 15 points out of our 25, where he either scored or assisted on 15 of the 25 points. That is such an influential period. And he was, for me, that guy who got us going. I just don't think you can speak highly enough of his importance in that win.
You second that, Gary? Your boy?
Before I do it, G, I'm going to ask you who you would like to nominate, and then I'll go after you.
Well, I'd go with the second unit, that came in. I thought all of them
so
played together.
Pick,
yeah. I mean, Jonathan Isaac, he's absolutely everywhere, shutting people down, getting steals. He was the same against Atlanta
he did,
last
mate,
night.
Will show up in a box score. Everybody will look and go, he got, what was it, 4 points, 6 rebounds, something like that. He's played all that time and done nothing. It doesn't show up in the box score what he did.
No, but he's a game changer, and he you set the tone by those winning plays that Jonathan Isaac comes up with. He's just a winning player in those limited minutes that he brings. That's why you need him on the floor in crunch time in the fourth quarter.
Julius Randle, an all-star, genuinely struggled against him, mate.
Yes.
So yeah. 100%
and Gary and I spoke about this before we came on, before you joined us, Paul. The Knicks are just a matchup nightmare for the Magic, because Randall gets locked up by Isaac, and you got Black all over Brunson, and their wings just aren't as good as ours. So all of them, to be honest, mate. Obviously, proud dad kind of thing. Markel Fultz had a good game. Obviously, lovely to see Cole Anthony play well at the Garden, against with his family in attendance against the Knicks. Jonathan Isaac, I've already mentioned it. You've mentioned Wendell. They were all there. And in our group messages, I just said, stick with this lot with Banchero and Suggs in there, and we'll close it out. And we did. So, it looked like we had our identity back, didn't it? Our defensive identity, especially in the second half. So, that's what it was for me, Gav.
I basically teed it up for you there, and I was like, gee, if you want to have your 2 minutes on Markel Fultz, there it is for you. The table is set. Sit down, have a slice of bacon, whatever you would like, slice of Fultz, but go for it. But I watched the game with my dad. He's a casual basketball fan. If you asked him who he supported, he would say Orlando, but he's not going to do a stats deep dive. But he was watching the game, and he said to me, just watching it, he went, after Paolo Banchero, the best player on the Orlando Magic is Jonathan Isaac. And that was just the view of someone watching the game without just watching what was happening on the court. And he was just like, he needs more minutes. He just kept saying he needs more minutes. And I was like, Dad, he's on the minutes restriction. But the point of it was, and I would go with this, I think Jonathan Isaac, when he plays, the defensive rating for this team is insane. When he is on the court, it is ridiculous. And players just don't want to go in the paint. They don't want to see him. They don't want to be guarded by him. You can see when he's actually there, players looking around, even when he's nowhere near them, in case he's going to influence the play. So I think GI, for me, just seeing him back out there, it's kind of like bittersweet, because if you had 30 minutes a game for the Magic and you were healthy, this team would be a top 4 seed. I genuinely believe that he's that influential for us. I think Cole was immense. I think it's one of those where when you watch a game like that and you think, okay, if this good guy could get healthy, you can see the 6th man of the year potential there with Cole. He did them. He took the game at them, and he was what they didn't want to see as well in the 4th quarter, because he wasn't having a great game in the first half. Absolutely. But in the second half, it was like someone put the microwave on, and it was time to go, and they couldn't do a great deal about it. Markel, we just want to. He had that game where you're going, okay, please have more of this now, and it's just kind of like we all want the best for Markel Fultz, and I think playing the Knicks suits him. I think what we were saying off air, G, I think if you're the New York Knicks, obviously you don't want to see Boston or Milwaukee in the playoffs, possibly Philadelphia. But if you looked at the rest of the Eastern Conference, for them, I don't think they want to see Orlando, because we have a very similar ethic in terms of they want to play physical basketball. That's what the Knicks are built on. Physical basketball, and they've got the players to do it. They've got Randall, they've got Mitchell Robinson, they've got Hartenstein. OG's going to fit in perfectly there.
Yeah.
But we have the players where it's like, okay, you want to bang in the paint? We've got a guy who does what your best front court player does, but he does it all better than him. In Banchero. And then it's Brunson's brilliant, but we've got, he legitimately is, he deserves to be an all-star, but we've got the defensive players to cause problems for that backcourt. You know, we can throw Jalen Suggs at him, we can throw Anthony Black at him, we can throw Markel at him, he's not a slouch defensively. We can throw Caleb Houston in there at him, we can throw Gary Harris at him. You know, they don't want to see that. And I think we are that, please don't play them. I think the Knicks would be delighted to get a team like maybe Cleveland again, another go at Cleveland, that type of thing. A team where they could maybe get on the backcourt, score over them. Yes, they've got obviously the 2 defensive presences, but I don't think they're as deep as us in the way that the Knicks would want match up with. So I think we're the team they don't want in the playoffs, and I think it suits our guys. And I think if you said to the Magic, who do you want in the first round? I think they would probably say New York.
Yeah.
Just coming back to your point, Gary, about Jonathan Isaac and how people are actively looking around. I think one of the things that doesn't sometimes get picked up on with him is that people are that focused on him, they then fail to notice somebody else who comes in, perhaps steals the ball or gets the block. His presence is allowing others to get the stat on the box score from the intervention, just of him being there. It's such a focus. He is such a focus maker. You're absolutely right.
It's a shame that he's this injured, but I think if you were to get 30 minutes a night every game out of Jonathan Isaac, he's got like all-star level impact on a game. But we can't see it because we can't get the minutes and we can't get the consistency. But you look at someone like Jaren Jackson Jr. and you look at his impact on it, and he's one of the best defenders in the NBA in the front court. And you look at his defensive rating compared to Jonathan Isaac, and Jonathan Isaac is levels above Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's just not fit. And that's not an insult to Jaren Jackson Jr. It's a compliment as to how good Jonathan Isaac is, but just how injured Jonathan Isaac is as well.
Yeah. One other person I need to shout out for that Knicks game, Dante Marcatelli. How many times did he do the commentator's jinx in the 4th quarter on those Knicks? I think he's mastering the technique now, isn't he, with JT? So, fair play to Dante. He's doing a sterling job on those road games, and long may it continue. We just talked there about the Knicks, but obviously another team that's made a deal this last week now. It was on Wednesday where the Indiana Pacers acquired Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. The price of it was 3 first-round picks, Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and the Pelicans also getting involved, sending Kira Lewis Jr. to the Raptors. So, Paul, first question. The Pacers seem to be all in this season now, and they must have some reassurances from Pascal Siakam's camp, obviously because he was a free agent end of the season. But for you, which team does this make the Pacers better than in the East?
Because I knew you were asking me this, I sort of had a little look. What I didn't realise that it was apparently well known that Pascal Siakam, one of the players he's always wanted to be paired up alongside, is Miles Turner. He's listed him as one of the ideal players for him to play alongside. So there's probably your reassurance to start with that he's interested in staying, and he's also reportedly said that he's extremely keen to get a deal done. So they must know. If he isn't, then they've paid a ridiculous price for somebody for half a season.
Yeah.
And because of the price they've paid, it would suggest that the Pacers will go all in on rewarding him to stay. So I don't think that's actually going to be an issue for them. As the Pacers, yeah, they were already strong. Incredible scoring team. Very suspect on D. Siakam definitely improves them in that regard. Again, mentioning Miles Turner, Siakam and Turner together could be an absolute nightmare to score on.
Yeah,
they do bring some rim protection. Throw in Siakam's ability to get points, and you've got to suggest that perhaps frees up Tyrese Halliburton from a little bit of the pressure that there's been on him to be the lead scorer, and again coming back to what we were saying about Paolo, that high usage rate that Tyrese is experiencing prior to this injury. To your question though, who does it make them better than? I think that's really, really hard to say because the East is so competitive this season.
Yeah.
But I would say on the current standings, it potentially nudges them in front of Miami and the Knicks. I don't know as it puts them with Philly or Milwaukee or a fully fit Cleveland, because Cleveland are on a tear at the moment, even with 2 key players out injured. I think once you see the chemistry that there is between the Pacers when Halliburton returns and you've got Siakam in there, then it could be interesting. The starting lineup, again, what do you go with there? I'm assuming it's going to be Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin when he's back, because he missed, I think, the last game. You're probably going to have to drop Obi Toppin back to the small forward position. Then you've got Siakam and Turner. You've got to ask, can that gel?
And healed off the bench.
Yeah. But what it does, because those other 4 can all shoot the 3, it does free Pascal up completely to be just driving at that basket, which is his strength. It could be a very, very dangerous team to go up against. But and then, as you say, you've then got some decent players to come off the bench. When you look at the depth of the team, you throw in your favourite mate, McConnell.
I knew you were going to say this.
But honestly, you look at Tyrese Halliburton's ability to find a pass, and you look at McConnell's ability to find a pass.
Yeah.
Siakam could really, really benefit from this move. And the team that has benefited, that's gone completely under the radar, is the Pelicans by getting involved, because it's dropped them below the luxury tax. So it gives them a little bit of flexibility, which is where they've become involved, apparently. But
yeah,
cracking job for the Pacers, I think. I think it's one of those trades that it's very good on both ends. It's very good for all the teams involved.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't give up that much, really, did they? You know, they're in that position,
basically, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and the picks, you know, if you're looking at them, you know, they're going to be mid to late first round picks, and you know how hard it is to unearth you know, a gem or a star, or you know, somebody who's capable amongst those picks. Gary, so would you have liked to see the Magic make a run at Pascal Siakam or something similar, or do you think we're maybe a year out from that? You know, packaging picks, etc.
It's just listen to what Paul said there. I think as a neutral, I would be really intrigued, first of all, by a Cleveland Indiana first round series. When you look at how that stacks up, because you've got both teams with two actual all-stars. Like Garland's been there recently, Mitchell's an all-star, Pascal's been there recently, Tyrese is an all-star. And then you've got on those teams, like Mobley is a high-level defensive player. You've got Miles Turner, who's a high-level blocker. You've got Jared Allen, who's a high, you know, like specialist. You've got Buddy Hield, who's a specialist. It could come down to coaching for me. Who would win that series and gets to impose their will? Would I have done it? Pascal, I don't really see where he would play.
Yeah.
Are we going to then say we'd play without a five and we'd just play Pascal, Paolo, and Franz? I couldn't see that personally. I don't think it would work. He's not going to get ahead of Paolo. And I don't think you're not pushing one of them down in the order to accommodate. So I don't think that would have worked for us. In terms of deals, I don't see Orlando making a groundbreaking deal. So I don't think, I could be wrong here, you know, it could come off and there could have been a Woj bomb or whatever Shams is called. But I just can't see it in this window. I could see us making a potential move, as in or a facilitator move where we get involved a bit like New Orleans have been and we score a draft pick or something out of it. I could see that. More likely for us, I could see either we make a move to shift salary like Gary Harris and just, as I've said, score the pick, or we may move in on someone if they become available like a Corey Kispert, someone who addresses a specialist need for us, because I think Indiana going all in would be foolish to give up Buddy Hield now. I don't see the point in them doing that. So I think that ship might have sailed, and then it's who would Orlando get? I wouldn't be thrilled if we went for Zach LaVine. No. Not with how it's played out this year, and not how we know how much athleticism plays a role in his game. And then who would we go for? I know you're going to give me a name in a second.
Well, a name that's been sort of floating around in the last week is somebody who buried us last night. Is Murray from the Hawks. You know, you look at him, right, and shout out the Lando on X, because he came up with all these stats. So I'm not making my own. I didn't do this work. He did this. So he's got a 6'10" wingspan. In the last 5 seasons, he's only missed 31 out of 315 games. He's 27 years old, averaging 21 points, 5.6 assists, 5.1 rebounds, shooting 38% from 3. He currently has a 4-year contract worth $112 million, which expires in 2028. Does he fit?
I'm going to throw another statistic at you there then. Is this the guy who was bouncing a basketball off guys who were playing pickup balls heads into some other?
He was, yes.
So-
I'm not in on it. I was
I'm just
messaging Mikey before we started. Mikey said he's perfect for us, and so I thought I'll grab the details. I don't think he's for me because you're committed to somebody too long term, and I think he's got question marks about his attitude.
I don't see the Magic's front office signing off on the character.
Agreed, and I think Paolo would have to sign off on it as well.
Yeah, Paolo would. I don't think that's as big a deal as people think it is. I wouldn't be surprised off the court now if they were on really good terms. I think it was just trying to get into Paolo's head and make a name for himself with the guy who was the number one pick. I think there was a lot of that. I don't think it's a Paolo thing. I think it's a case of I don't think the Magic organization would want a guy who does stuff like that. The level of talent he was playing against, what is it again from that?
Yeah,
nothing. And I just don't think he's a player. Yeah, and you know what? I think his defensive game has taken a hit playing alongside Trae Young.
Yes,
because he was known as a really good defensive player when he was with the Spurs, and now he's not. So I think that's part of the backcourt. I think he will be traded. I don't know what the Atlanta Hawks would want from us for him.
2 second-round picks
The
apparently
suggestion
is
is
the asking
2
price.
picks. Yeah,
That's it.
Picks. Yeah,
that surprises me.
It's not worked, has it? It's not worked in being there, even though he's the second highest scorer on the team, points per game.
He makes us better, and if you wanted to look at what we've been saying about a guy who's a guard who can play defense when he was in San Antonio, 3 wingspan, 20 points a game, third option, all of those things, even the age isn't that big a deal. I just don't think. I'd be surprised if our reputation was put on that. That's where it's at. I would be surprised on the reputation.
Yeah, can I bring Paul in here? Because Paul, unfortunately, had to watch the Hawks commentary down the stretch last night. But when he did that, they interviewed him after the game. And he had a lot of
after the game.
He had a lot of good stuff to say, you said, Paul.
He was interviewed post-game, and their courtside reporter asked him the question, what is it about playing the Magic that brings out these close games and his performances? And his first words were, they are a well-coached team. I've nothing but love for their coach. Look at how they were coached. I watch them night in, night out. They're coached by him for 48 minutes a game. They are a good team. I think he said a good team or a strong team, something led by good young players in Banchero and Wagner. And that he was then asked about having had a couple of minutes prior to the interview where he was in a hug with Jamal Murray and talking to him. Jamal Mosley. And says to him, what was said? And he went, just nothing but love. Nothing but love for that man. I mean, it was almost a come and get me interview. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what you sent me on WhatsApp earlier.
I don't see Moore signing off on the stuff that he saw though. So if he's going to come in, I think that's going out the window immediately.
I think he's got to learn. He's got to learn, and hopefully that's an experience that it did get some negative attention, didn't it, at the time? And hopefully it's one of them things that he's learned not to be an idiot. Let's hope.
So another guy that was obviously part of this deal was Bruce Brown. There's talk about him being rerouted from the Toronto Raptors, who are just blowing it all up, really, aren't they? Is he somebody you'd go after, perhaps, or is this maybe a season too soon, as you mentioned before? Well,
For me,
yeah,
I'm going to start this by saying I'm still not desperate to get a trade done, especially if it's a knee-jerk reaction to what the Pacers and the Knicks have done. It's only look, it isn't that long ago, probably just before Fran's injury, that we were doing well. We were winning games. We were high up in the league. We were putting wins together. We all knew that December and January was going to be a difficult period. Unfortunately, we also then hit in that rough period injuries, and we've had a few losses, and as a result, it seems that certain parts of the fan base, be it on Facebook or X or wherever else, are running around Chicken Little style, screaming that the sky's falling in. Our schedule still going forward is, according to Tankathon, the easiest, and on lots of other websites and the like, it's listed as being one of the 4 easiest. With health, I don't see a reason why we can't progress, and the team was doing well. I think we're all where we were expecting us to be this season. When we were talking about this pre-season, we are in that area, and we're probably slightly ahead of it. So I'm not settling, and I think we can be in the mix, but I still think we're probably that season away from being the team that's really pushing. But I suppose going all in comes on where we see ourselves where the team sees itself this season. Do they think that they've done so much better that with one tweak they can be pushing themselves and become a genuine contender for a playoff run? I don't think it's worthwhile doing just to be a first round exit. You may as well stick with things.
Yeah.
As to the question about Brown, I think he's a decent fit for us. He's got very strong defensive play. He can certainly hit a 3, brings championship experience. And I think you're also going to be looking at, he's going to be available relatively cheaply. One of the things that the Raptors are clearly wanting is picks. We own our own draft capital, and we have Denver's pick. And there has to come a point where the Magic, we have to look and say, how many more young players do we need? How many more picks do we need to use, be it first or second round? And do we then, as Indiana have done, cash in some of those for a player who can advance the needle? But that's the only point I would do it, if it's somebody who can genuinely move the needle forward. I'd be interested in both Bruce Brown and Murray. I think both fit.
Yeah.
I think both fit.
So we had a Patreon call on Sunday night. We had a lot of fun with the guys. We always do. We have a bit of a laugh, don't we? But we were just having a quick conversation about this, and somebody came, I can't remember who came up with it. If it might have been Angus, was Dennis Schroeder. Obviously, he's on the Raptors. He's making a fair whack. I think he's signed up for the next 2 seasons. But as you mentioned, Paul, they might be blowing it up. Obviously, you've got your, 2 compatriots from Germany, Franz and Mo, on the Magic. And so, Gary, you've had some time to think about this now since last Sunday. Is it something you'd entertain?
My worry with the pros are that it's obviously there's a natural chemistry there with the Wagners. My con to the deal would be that, off the top of my head, Schroeder's about 6'1". I think he's a very good 6th man. He's going to play the guard spot. So I'm then looking and saying that means, in my book, Colo Markel's going. So my return question would be, do you want to lose Colo Markel for Dennis Schroeder? And that's as clear as where it's at. I think you're going to get similar production what you get out of Cole Anthony off the bench, because I think he will be coming off the bench. I don't think he's a player that's massively loved by fan bases. When he goes to teams, he seems very, very Marmite about what you get. I've seen. I don't follow his career massively. I look at him more when he plays for Germany than when he plays for like Toronto. I don't think he would move the needle at all for us, but he would eat salary cap for doing a job that Cole Anthony already does very, very well for younger and on a good deal. So for me, it's a no. I could see why he would be good for some teams, but if he's not a needle mover on this team, because I think what we would give up would just balance it out.
Because that's Gary Harris,
but you lose this. But you lose the size.
You do, but it just gives us another body. Obviously, what with the injuries, it gives you a chance to have Cole Markel fully fit. Something we've discussed in the past.
But then what I'm going to say is that, are you then going to start Cole or Schroeder? Because you're not going to bring both of them off the bench.
No, you start Markel, mate.
No, Markel's gone in the deal.
Not with that. Not at the minute. Like we spoke off air. For me, if it wasn't for the way our injuries have been, I wouldn't have Cole or Markel on the floor at the minute. I don't think Cole's. I think there's been elements and flashes, and I think he's getting there. But Cole's took a battering recently, and I think he's been a bit out of form as a result. I'm sorry to say this, G. I've already said it to you off air.
Yeah.
I watched the possessions because I didn't have time to get sat down till 7:15 tonight. Markel's shot is not good, and the way he's moving on that floor, and the way he's coming back, and he's found his feet so quickly, I don't believe that he's had a knee injury. I'll be as blatant as that. I think he's had a shoulder injury. I've seen Court Cousins say that I think it was a shoulder injury. Me and Mikey's had that discussion, but there was a shot in the fourth quarter that clanked off the rim. The possessions actually had the Hawks commentary on. The commentator, I'm thinking that Dominic Wilkins for the Hawks. I could be wrong.
He's one of
them. He said, "What an ugly shot that was! It had the hitch. It banged off the rim. It was bad." But for me, the more worrying one was when there was the fast break in the fourth quarter, and it was a 3-on-1, and Markel ended up having to go under the basket and then got a foul off a 3-on-1 break. And there's no way Markel Fultz at the back end of last season would have done that. So I think he's playing in pain. And I think if that's the case, I think we're due to get Franz Wagner and Gary Harris back in the next few days, by all accounts. Shut them down. Because he's standing on the court and he looks like he's got the whole of Super Drugs counter on his right shoulder.
I'd say it's heavily taped, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of athlete tape.
Was that the play that you talked about where Wilkins said he's making my shoulder hurt just watching him?
I had it on the possessions, so the commentary cut, but it sounded like he'd be going down that line of what he was saying, because he kind of like, in his voice, it sounded like he winced with the shot. I don't take any pleasure in saying that, because I like Markel. I'm not in the Markel fan club to the level of G, but I like Markel Fultz, and we all see him as this feel-good story, because when he's fit, and what we saw from Fultz in Orlando, especially at the end of last season, we saw why he was the number one pick. Yeah. If you were a Magic fan, you looked at that and you went, geez, like Jonathan Isaac, if this guy didn't have the injury he's clearly had to his shoulder, you've basically, for me, got a faster James Harden with athleticism, which is scary. So when you look at it and you go, oh, well, how would you pass up Jason Tatum in a draft? Tatum's fantastic, but the way the NBA was and the way Harden was playing then, and someone said, oh, Fultz with the way he used to shoot is going to do all of that for you, but he's going to go in the paint and dunk, and he's going to play at the pace he does. You'd be like, there's your number one pick. And you can see why. And it's soul destroying to see, but then this is why we got him so cheap. It was like a reclamation project, and I'm looking at it out there, and he's got everything else. The pace is there, the glide's back, all these things. But there is nobody going to guard Markel Fultz outside of the paint with the way that shoulder is. The shots, you can see at the free throw line, and it's awful to see. Because every time he steps on the court, I just been like, right, take a jump shot with no hitch, and let's just get back to where it was. But I think he's in pain.
You probably wouldn't have seen it, Gary, but every time that Markel didn't have the ball against Atlanta, their defence weren't interested in him.
Yeah.
There was just no coverage of him. It allowed for if he was on the court, and this isn't a dig, because like you said, I think when Markel's fit and able to play, he does give us a phenomenal court vision. Puts some beautiful passes in, and his drive at the basket is excellent. But it allows for a double teaming when he's on the court and he's shooting as badly as he is.
He's either got if the Magic.
I'm really conflicted by it.
Yeah, if the health is saying actually this shoulder's going to loosen up and it's going to get better, and we just give him minutes, then for the sake of 10, 12, whatever, you eat it because of what we could get at the end of it all. But at the same point in time, I'm looking at it and I'm going, I think that's a player who's playing in pain. He has to, you don't strap yourself up like he is and pass up what he is and say the change in the game, the change in the shot, if something's not hurting. That's like the type of thing, if you were to like say in a weight training, you overcompensate on your form when you've got an injury, and that's why you get another one. And for me, Fultz has changed his jump shot back to what it was because something is obviously hurting when he puts it up there. He's not even looking for the three now because he can't do it.
He's afraid to shoot, isn't he?
He can't. He knows he can't do it, so there's no point. I think with the way his shot has been, I actually doubt whether if he'd shot a three with any minutes under his belt at all in a game, whether the three would actually get anywhere near the front of the rim. Because it seems as though the power's not there to do it. So we need like Markel to be looked after here. Either they tell us he's going to play through it and it's going to get better and it needs to loosen off, and that's what we're doing, or this guy needs rehab like he had before, and we're going to send him away for 6 weeks, and we'd like to see him for the playoffs.
Yeah. Right.
I hate saying that. Sorry, G. I feel as though I've like just shot Lassie. That's how I feel. Sorry, mate. Watching your face there, I was like, I've just shot Lassie. I've just told G about Santa Claus.
For any of the kids watching, he's real.
Yeah.
He's real, 100% real, and he'll see you again next year.
Yeah. So last one then. Obviously, with that trade that happened, how does the East seedings look for you guys now? So just your top 8. Forget the rest. We should all have the same teams. You go to Paul first.
Oh God. I don't think it changes the top. I think Boston are still there. I think Milwaukee are second. I think Philadelphia sit third. Cleveland will be fourth.
Okay.
Pacers fifth. So
you've got Orlando, Miami, New York left.
It's flip a coin between them three. I'll put us in 8th, Miami 7th, New York 6th.
Okay. Gah?
I think Boston's levels above. I said this to your mate, Rich Barrett, on Twitter the other night. I think Boston are, for me, head and shoulders above anyone in the 7-game series in the East, maybe the West as well. I actually think Philly could be second. And I say that just because I think they're better coached. So if I was saying by pure talent and not resting people, Philly, Milwaukee, I'll go third. Just a little bit different here. I'm going to say Indiana in 4th. Cleveland in 5th, New York in 6th, Miami, Orlando, and depending on what happens, if there's no trades made, I would then say Atlanta might be the ones who are breathing down our neck, followed by Chicago.
Okay. I think I've been a bit more positive than you both. Right. I got Boston.
I'm not being negative, G.
Oh, no. I'm just saying about the Magic. Yeah. I'm just saying about the Magic.
No, I'm not being negative at all.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. I've got us in 6th. Just because
it's entirely possible, mate.
The schedule, and we're not that far behind, and we've done our 2 West Coast trips, and players come back. So, and we went 1-3 last week, but we were in all those games without all the players. So, anyway, Boston 1. I got Philadelphia 2 also, Gar. Like you say, I think it's the coaching. And, you got a game plan for Giannis, and, Lillard can only bail them out so many times. Milwaukee 3. I've also got the Pacers in 4. I got the Cavs in 5, Magic in 6, the dirty stinking Heat in 7, and I got the Knicks in 8. And then, like you, go on.
Can I put just a quick asterisk on it?
Go on then.
I'm doing this because I'm assuming we're going to just have a hell of a lot of injuries.
Okay.
So when I'm saying this, if it was everybody fit, it changes things, but I don't think we will be.
Yeah. Let's just hope that they are.
I want to hope, G. I really want to hope, but I look at our roster and I'm like, straight away, how many injuries is Jonathan Isaac going to have? What's going to happen with Markelle Fultz? If we keep Gary Harris, what's his injury record suggest? So I'm straight away going, there's 3 guys there who could be out long-term injury at any point.
Wendell.
And then throw that on top.
Yeah.
We are built to be injured.
Well, it's the comment, isn't it, that we keep investing in people who have a history of injuries. And until we potentially move away from that, we are going to be having this perennial problem season upon season going forward as well.
Yeah. So then, any more for any more guys? No.
Right, no, honestly, I genuinely think at the start of the season, I say my ceiling for the Magic was 6th. I thought that's where I thought we'd be in the mix for challenging higher, but I thought our ceiling would be 6th. And coming back to what we just said, I still think we could get 6th between us and New York and Miami. Like I said, you can flip a coin, and I can make an argument for any of them being higher and any of them being lower. But I do think we'll be in there. I do think we're in that mix.
Yeah. All right, so that'll do it for this week. But before we go, we just want to say thank you to all of our patrons for your incredible support. So thanks to Gary Conn, Paolo and Franz Warmth, Ollie Law, Gary Clark, Angus Craig, Dylan Holden, Alan Kane, Tom Soane, Mark Joss, Sean Moore, Liam Radbourne, Andy Lindley, Stuart Benzies, and Drummy Drum. If you're interested in joining our Patreon...
G.
What?
It's not Gary. It's not Gary Conn. It's Barry.
Did I say Gary Conn? Sorry, man.
But
yeah, I was looking at Gary. Sorry, Barry Conn.
Took by Gary's beauty.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be.
So if you're interested in joining our Patreon, we do have 3 tiers available with varying benefits. Please visit patreon.com/Let's Talk Magic to join today. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and don't forget to set the notification button. Leave us your comments, reviews, and questions. We will interact with everybody. Please share what we do with other Magic fans. It really does help us. You can get us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X, all at _Let's Talk Magic. So until next time, from Gary, Paul, and myself, go Magic.